Hello, Rick here with a tale to tell. Before the universe there was nothing, the black, the void. Then for an instant, a spark, with it the white light of creation exploded into existence. Matter, energy and something else, the intangible emotional spectrum, created from the brightest light of life. The spectrum is the embodiment of emotion given form. Some would argue the essence of life itself. A Malthusian scientist known as Krona witnessed these events by prying into the distant past to uncover the secrets of creation. But this event was meant to remain unknown to intelligent life, and its very observation broke the laws of the universe, shattering and inverting the beginning to produce the antimatter universe and, some say, a multitude of parallel worlds. For this folly, Krona was exiled from Maltus, and those who remained decreed that they must make amends for their brethren's transgression. They formed the Guardians of the Universe, a governing body to oversee order in the known universe. They utilised Krona's research into the power of the emotional spectrum to fuel their endeavour and attempted a multitude of trials before settling on the most stable energy of the white light, the green, the embodiment of willpower. But what is willpower? I wouldn't personally consider drive and will to be an emotion, more something produced by emotions, something that is then used to tailor rage into motivation, something that transforms hopes into realities, and something that can overcome great fear. But perhaps that is why it sits at the middle of the emotional light. It exerts no control over an individual, but is instead used to forge emotion into action. It is often said to be the most stable power in the spectrum, and although not the most powerful in the moment, theoretically has no limits. The Malthusians began by mapping the known universe, establishing a base of operations at the centre of it all, on a planet called Oa, orbiting a single star, sto-oa. They divided it into 3,600 sectors of space. Wrapping themselves in evolving wraps, they were gifted with extreme abilities which allowed them to harness the green light of willpower, and to form it into a central power battery, which would continually siphon off a portion of the drive of all life and funnel it into smaller, portable batteries. These in turn are connected to power rings and distributed to individuals who have displayed an ability to overcome great fear. One, later two from every sector, leading to a total of 7,200 Green Lanterns to form the Green Lantern Corps, a universal police force. When a lantern dies, his or her ring leaves the body and immediately begins a scan for a nearby suitable replacement individual within its designated sector. The sheer scale of the potential recruitment pool means that there are members from thousands of different species, and some extraordinary examples, including Mogo, a sentient planet, an incorporeal being called Flodospan, and Lieslepon, a superintelligent virus. Once recruited, the individual is encouraged to travel back to Oa at the earliest opportunity to begin their training in their new life. The conscription can be refused officially at this point, but it's a rare occurrence. Often the recruits, distinguishable by their lack of a lantern badge, are put through boot camp, led by the notoriously tough Kilowog. After graduation, they recite the oath, then they are partnered up with an available lantern to learn the ropes before being assigned to patrol their own sector with a partner lantern. Earth, for example, lies in Sector 2814 and has had numerous lanterns presiding over it. The Guardian's word is law over the lanterns, and they are expected to be obeyed at all times. Their literal millions of years of experience are unquestionable, but can render their judgments harsh and cold. With time, their rule proved to become overzealous, but that is a story for another day. The history and the lore of the lanterns is recorded in the Book of Oa, and the fallen officers immortalised in Memorial Hall. The worst and most dangerous criminals that the lanterns arrest can be brought back to the modular science cells. If they wish it, lanterns can take up permanent residence on Oa, alongside the barracks, mess and numerous recreational facilities on the planet. The Citadel lies at the heart of the Emerald City and houses the Guardian's chambers, surveillance rooms, the Book of Oa and the Central Power Battery. The lanterns themselves have great autonomy to work within their sectors so long as they abide by the tenets set out by the Guardians, such as prioritising threats, never using the rings for personal gain, and exercising restraint and respect when dealing with alien cultures. The minimalisation of casualties and protection of life are high on the list of a lantern's priorities, as well as the collection of evidence that the ring can record that can be used in a trial on sto-oa for an arrested criminal. A lantern found in misuse of their powers will face a hearing and can have restrictions placed upon them and endure a trial or even be banished or imprisoned themselves. The incoming glow of an emerald aura and the sight of the lantern's symbol should inspire the populace, and great lengths are undertaken by the day-to-day officers of the Corps to ensure this reputation.
Let those who worship evil's might beware my power! Green Lantern's light!
A reputation that the Guardians generally are more unconcerned with. The rings themselves are of incredible power, but are all based on the willpower and mental state of the wielder. After charging at a personal power battery, a ring has access to a myriad of powers, some of which are running constantly. They provide a protective barrier that allows for space travel as well as near-light velocities in a vacuum, protection against damage, and it amplifies the wearer's strength. Because the universe is kinda big, they each have a complete archive and map of the known cosmos, as well as access to a network of wormholes to allow for near-instant travel across galaxies. Each ring also provides communication to the forms of auditory, visual and telepathic methods, and can discharge energy blasts of varying power. But by far the most iconic power of a Green Lantern is the ability to create constructs of any object you can picture in your mind. Despite its description as the most powerful weapon in the universe, it does have limits and restrictions placed upon it, but with enough willpower put behind it, these limits can be broken, much to the Guardians' chagrin. Because the use of the ring is a very mental affair, constructs created can often display an insight into one's personality. Many constructs summoned in the moment take on the form of something of which the wielder is familiar, and which can be used in the same fashion. Say for example a plane formed in a dogfight by a pilot, or a scoped rifle by a soldier who needs to take a long shot with a familiar weapon. A wielder's belief in the construct affects how powerful it is. When creating a shield, sure the default setting is just a bubble, but if you picture a sturdy metal safe, despite the constructs effectively being the same thing, the safe may uphold a little longer simply because you feel more secure in it. Past achievements by the rings include time travel, invisibility and even phasing through objects, but these are likely extremely risky and therefore restricted powers. The rings seem to have one foot in the arcane too. After all, the nature of the emotional spectrum precedes that of most of creation, and magic stems from a similar primordial source. All the uniforms of the Green Lanterns are physical and formed from the ring. They have to feature the emblem somewhere and primarily are green, white and black, with the green parts emanating noticeable warmth. The uniform has a default state that applies to most species, but is customizable to a large degree, and they all retain the same colour scheme. Some lanterns modify the design slightly, and only once, while others change it incredibly and often. The uniform also comes with a small mask by default to obscure the wearer's identity if they wish it. Most don't bother, as they operate over such a large sector that the risk of running into anyone they know is rather small. Among the Corps, your fellow members are your family, and therefore betrayal is considered one of the most heinous acts. The Corps does have its share of weaknesses, most of which stem from their greatest strengths. The networked nature of the rings means that corrupting influences can be spread through them by compromising the central power battery. Likewise, shutting it off can sever the connection. Also, the ring's reliance on mental power and force of will means that meddling with a lantern's mind, literally or emotionally, can compromise their powers, hence the selection requirement of overcoming great fear, demonstrating the drive to carry on despite a compromised mental state. And finally, their biggest weakness is their scale. 7,200 seems like a lot, but only 2 lanterns to patrol multiple systems is an insane statistic. Therefore, they are expected to go after primarily planet-threatening targets, leaving most of the crime to the planet's primary anti-crime force. Their authority generally supersedes that of a planet's with the Guardian's order, but it is a rule for an officer to attempt to work within their host planet's justice system, never to replace it or subjugate a populace into obedience. One of the biggest threats to the Corps came from a man who did just that, and went on to found an entire organisation to oppose and eventually supplant the Green Lanterns. And the Owens themselves, the Guardians of the Universe, don't exactly have clean hands, being responsible for the massacre of an entire 666 sector when their first police force, the Manhunter robots, went rogue. Many in the universe are too young of a species to remember or even know of these events, but the oldest beings remember a time before the Lanterns when their masters made costly mistakes. Thanks for listening to this index. As usual, the vote is up for the next topic. I'm thinking we either keep the DC train rolling with the Sinestro Corps next, or for a change of pace, the Geth from Mass Effect. Below in the comments you can find a post for each, and your like counts as the vote. So until then, thanks for watching. I hope you take a look at the channel, and I'll be back for next video. The Green Lanterns have to be my favourite DC mythos, no surprise I guess due to their science fiction links, and I loved the Blackest Night through to the Third Army run, and the New 52, and Rebirth, and Brightest Day, and the Sinestro War, the War of Light, Emerald Twilight, the New Guardians, the Aftermath as well.